After much speculation regarding William Nylander and the fans speculating why he has been injured, Elliotte Friedman finally drops a concrete report revealing the truth behind him missing the first 3 games of the series. So, we're going to break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as Bobby McMann. We have an injury update in his front. We're going to cover all that. But before we do, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. If you haven't hit the button already, we're producing daily Leafs content streams after almost every game, so make sure to hit that button if you haven't already. And Darius, we finally have it, and it came in the form of an Elliotte Friedman bomb this morning, and we made a couple videos speculating from some sources, the People's Phone, all of these things, but we finally have a concrete report, and the People's Phone is right. It was a head injury to a degree. We speculated concussion, and it's about as close to a concussion as you can get without being a concussion. So here is the exact tweet and I guess the exact report from Elliotte Friedman just an hour or so ago. According to multiple sources, Willie Nylander's absence from the Toronto lineup has to do with a migraine so severe that team doctors tested to see if he suffered a concussion. One of the reasons for the secrecy around the situation is that the actual diagnosis has been hard to come by, whether it is a migraine, a concussion, or something else that could affect that area. That secrecy led to wild speculation, even by Toronto standards, as to why Nylander missed the first 3 games of the series, and it's believed that Nylander first indicated and issued Thursday, the day after the Leafs ended their regular season in Tampa Bay, and then he played, as you can see, all 82 games last season, and for the previous 6 seasons, I believe. So, that's a little bit wild, and it seems like the report that we covered a couple days ago is true. It is a head injury. It was sustained in the last game. It is a migraine so severe that it could have been considered a concussion, Darius.
Yeah, a migraine so severe that it could have been considered a concussion. That's crazy. That is crazy. That line really struck me by surprise. And if you've ever had a migraine or if you know about migraines, like this is not something that is very easy to deal with. And he's been dealing with it or if many Leaf fans can remember, I think it was 2 years ago, 21, 22, he was saying that he was dealing with migraines and that's why he switched to the darker visor because it helped him on the ice. I guess it had something to do with the glare off the ice or something like that. So he's been dealing with something like this, and I guess it flared up again the day after the regular season ended, which is terrible timing. But we have, I guess, an answer at this point. They haven't been able to figure out why, and it's flared up to the point that they thought it was a concussion. Obviously they tested him for a concussion. I don't think it is, or they didn't really say that he does have a concussion, but I guess they're trying to figure out and maneuver their way through this thing to get him back onto the ice. But I don't think you can play if it's that severe. I don't think you can play in a playoff game with a migraine that bad. So I feel for him, to be honest. I'm sure he's confused, just like everyone else, and he wants to play, I'm sure, and it's holding him back. So this is just a weird situation, and I should say too that it makes a little bit more sense now that we have some insight into this. It does make sense as to why he's been held out the way he has, and the fact that he's been skating and trying to feel comfortable each morning skate. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but obviously it seems like he's getting more comfortable and maybe the flare up is coming down.
Yeah, and we kind of discussed in yesterday's stream that maybe they'd leak the actual reason to get rid of the distractions, and they did do that this morning to Elliotte Friedman. Who knows who told him this? Probably some team personnel. And then you have some other people saying, are they using the dressing room as a medical research lab? I swear there's been at least one person sick. As you can see, Austin Matthews was dealing with a sickness in yesterday's game, and he did not have a flu game, a master flu game like some players have.
No,
in the
not a
past.
Michael Jordan game.
Yeah, no Michael Jordan game for him. But you look at what the Leafs have been going through now, it's very unfortunate. Obviously, the migraine, which seems like a big, not super likely to happen, even though it has happened to him in the past. And then you see Austin Matthews getting sick for yesterday's game, which could explain some things, but it's unfortunate. Luckily, they have a couple-day break now until the game on Saturday, but very interesting. Around what we expected, not really a migraine. I expected more so a concussion, but at least it's not a physical injury, even though probably would be easier to play through a physical injury than a migraine at this point.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, if you've ever had to deal with a migraine or know anybody who has migraines, it's not something that's easy. You kind of have to take it step by step, and it could flare up whenever. And I'm sure that he's probably feeling better than he was last week, but I don't know if he's closer. Like, they got to take it day by day. We can't really say that he's closer to playing or not. They're just going to have to see how he feels come Saturday, to be honest. Like, I'm sure he'll practice and skate again, but we'll just have to see closer to game time if he's ready to go. It does sound like he's progressing and things are getting a little easier just by the language they've been using. And Jeff Merrick, just the language he used this morning too on his show with Elliotte Friedman, it sounds like maybe he could be dealing with other things too, probably not as severe, but maybe it's just a terrible combination of things. I'm not saying that that's the case. It's just the language he chose to use. But yeah, when it comes down to a migraine, they're going to have to take it day by day, and hopefully he can play. But in my opinion, if you're going to have William Nylander with a migraine, I'd rather have a player who's 100% in the lineup over him that can give you those minutes instead, because that's a wild card. If you take a hit, like, you're not feeling great. So weird situation, man.
And now this is public, so they'd wouldn't put past the Bruins to not target him in a bad way, but to definitely give him a couple of hits if he plays. But let us know what your thoughts are on that. And speaking of players returning, we have an injury update on Bobby McMann, and kind of just an update on what he's looking like going forward. Because he's been a missing part of this Leafs team as well. It's kind of flown under the radar given the Nylander situation. And there was hope that he would play in Game 4. A little more unclear is the status of Bobby McMann. That first sentence is regarding William Nylander. But for Bobby McMann, who suffered a lower body injury in Game 8 versus Detroit, his timeline was expected to be longer than Nylander's, although hasn't been ruled out of the series. So Darius, another not so great bit of news here, and you can see that McMann is being evaluated daily per Darren Dreger of TSN and hasn't been ruled out of the series. The insider also motioned that Game 5 or 6 could be when we see the 28-year-old's return, and that the forward is eyeing a potential return before the end of the series if we get there to a game
Right.
6. So not bad, I guess, not great. He's not going to be coming back anytime very soon, as in not Saturday.
Yeah, he won't be back Saturday, but it looks like he could be back Tuesday or even for a Game 6, possible Game 6, because obviously Leafs are going to have to win a game here if they're going to force it to Game 6.
Yep.
But yeah, nothing's been made of Bobby McMann. I guess that's because when he did get injured, they said it would be somewhat longer term, so people just kind of forgot about him. But he would play a huge part in this series, and if you insert him into the lineup in maybe a Game 5 or Game 6, I feel like, I'm not saying he's going to take over this series, but he would definitely help. He had a very strong second half of the season, so we'll just have to see how this plays out. But it did sound like they're not deactivating him for the series, so he could be coming back very soon. It's not going to be Saturday, right? They're not alluding to that, but it could be very soon. He could make a return Game 5 or 6, even if he's not 100%. Just see what he can bring to the lineup. So I would look for that next week. I think that would be good for Bobby McMann to come back into the lineup, because I think they're sorely missing him.
Yeah, and you look at some of his impact that he has. McMann was carving out an important role for himself with the Leafs, obviously top 6. Everyone plays a role, no matter how big or small, but certainly his game has come on and his role has gotten bigger. This is Tavares speaking of him, and we'll miss him if he misses any time. And he said this obviously before the series, and they're missing both of them, McMann especially, or Nylander especially, but McMann as well there. And you can see this from Darren Dreger. The Willie watch continues. Bobby McMann is also being evaluated daily and most definitely hasn't been ruled out. There's a world where if they can steal a game in Boston now and they come back and they maybe get Nylander back, to get Bobby McMann back for the game in Toronto in Game 5. Maybe they're looking okay, or Game 6, whatever it ends up being when they're back home. Yep. It could be okay. It could be great. They could have a huge boost of energy, or there's a chance where neither of them play and they get eliminated early. But any final thoughts before we wrap up? It's just a lot of course, it happens to Leafs hockey. Just a bunch of injuries, sicknesses, everything right before the playoffs after being fairly healthy not decently healthy before the playoffs started.
I thought they were fairly healthy throughout the regular season. So bad timing for everything. Game 4 is going to be an absolute wild card in my eyes, because they have to win that game. Because if you don't go down 3-1, you're going back to Boston for Game 5. And you have to, even if you force it to 7, you're going back to Boston twice. That is a tall task. So I think you absolutely have to win. And if you can push it to a Game 5 or 6, maybe you get Willie and McMahon back. And I feel like that adds a lot of dynamic to the Leafs lineup. And that would certainly help them push the series even further. But we'll just have to get there first. So they have to win this Game 4 on Saturday. It's going to be very interesting to watch, because they're going to be without McMahon, and are they still without Willie? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on all this. Finally got an actual reason after a lot of speculation. So it's not great. It's not completely terrible. It'll be interesting to see. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you later.